Welcome to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, Editor-in-Chief of thenationalpulse.com. We have in studio Natalie Winters joining us, Molly McCann of Counsel with Sidney Powell will join us later on in the show as well. And we'll talk about Wisconsin, we'll talk about Georgia, we'll talk about the suit being dropped tomorrow, we'll talk about all the latest evidence that we're seeing that Joe Biden is in fact not the president-elect of these United States. He can go up on television all he wants, flanked by his masked cabinet members, the failed people from the Obama administration, the second, third, fourth tier types. Couldn't string a sentence together, let alone a coherent foreign policy. I want to talk to you about coherent foreign policy in just a moment, but first, I want to talk to you about something that I'm seeing around the country that is deeply disturbing, and I know that there is a prize out there, and we're not taking our eyes off the ball of the presidency and the election fight, but there are also other fights. You know, the left will always try to pull us in different directions, try and distract us. No. I can walk and chew gum. I have two hands, I have two eyes, I have two ears. We can do a lot of things at the same time, and it is imperative that we discuss what we're seeing out there in America as it relates to the new lockdowns all across the country. Land of the free, unless you breach curfew. Land of the free, unless your son isn't wearing a mask. I know we've got a couple of these clips, and I want to play them for you in case you hadn't seen on social media what's taking place across this country in the name of science. Let's roll something. Do we have these clips teed up? I want to make sure. I want to get to California clip and show people what's going on out in this communist state.
Not you guys. ACLU is fine. Get off the street. Go home. Go home. Go home or you're getting arrested. You're under arrest. Curfew. You're under arrest.
What do I do?
Stay back.
I'm not a part of it.
You're under arrest.
Stop resisting. Resist.
Stop resisting.
You guys are putting your knee in me.
Go
Get your
home.
knee on
Stop
me.
resisting.
Get your knee
Give me
on
your
me.
arm.
No.
Give me your arm. Do it now. Go home, please. There's a curfew. This person's under arrest. Hey, guys. All right.
Yeah, but that's not.
Stay back. You can record. Just stay back, all right?
That's a family
There's nothing wrong with that.
I know
Stop
that.
resisting or you're going to get tased.
What the fuck? Get off me and you can handcuff me.
You are under arrest. Stop resisting.
I can't help it. You got so many guys on me. I can't.
It's incredible. It's incredible what the establishment are doing to pit police officers who, broadly speaking, as we always say, we respect, revere, love the thin blue line that protects us from the violence and the looting and all the other things that the Democrats have foisted on us over the last couple of decades, and especially over the last year. But you look at what they're doing in terms of weaponizing the police against ordinary people for what? Breaking a curfew. A curfew for what? Locking down over a virus. Locking down over what virus? A virus with an incredibly high survival rate that only impacts Mostly people with pre-existing conditions. Let's roll this other clip here to show you what happens if you don't wear a mask in public.
My finger. I'm not gonna break your finger. I'm just holding on to your finger. Over a f***ing mask. Good old David over here. I had to take this off to breathe for a second, so what he's doing, call some f***ing cops.
Dude, I'm not resisting.
That's what I'm saying.
I am not.
How is he resisting?
He's tensing his arms.
No, he's not.
Dude, I don't
Dude, I
know
got
what
this
you
on
call
video,
this, but that's
man.
kind of a natural reaction when two
Let's
guys
go
are
over.
assaulting you.
Right.
Lean against my vehicle for you.
What?
Lean against my vehicle, please. Do you have anything on you that's going to poke you or stick me?
Yeah, I got a knife in my right pocket, a pocket knife.
Pocket knife in your pocket. Okay, very good. You have anything else on you that's going to poke me or stick me?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Here's what I want you to do to the audience out there, to your brothers and sisters and fathers and uncles and cousins and friends who are wives, husbands, whatever, sons, daughters, who are in the police. From me, I want you to say thank you for doing what you do, but no thank you for doing this. And please don't do this. Please do not cooperate with these stupid, dumb, Democrat sanctions on ordinary people, these anti-scientific measures, these anti-human measures, these anti-freedom measures. Please don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't enforce it. Damn the consequences. Because we'll stand with you. There is no reason to arrest someone because their son, off camera, don't even know what happened in the rest of that clip, wasn't wearing a mask. The two unmasked police officers arresting a guy with his mask down below his nose. This is nonsense that you're seeing on your screens. This is theatre. It's theatrics. How many times over the last couple of decades, even centuries, have we been told that at some point we will get tyrannical governments, tyrannical governors using science as a means by which to oppress ordinary people? And not only is it now taking place, not only did we not actively and sufficiently heed those warnings, but look at how it's happening. It's happening on cameras. We're capturing it. This isn't stories that are being passed down from generation to generation. It's real time. It's right now. It's in America. I'll be back. I've got another rant for you. Stay tuned. You know, last night I wanted to watch a movie and I didn't really know what I wanted to watch. I certainly didn't want to watch anything that was being served to me on Apple TV, on Netflix, or any of the trash that they keep serving up right now. I mean, it's genuinely awful. If you don't have it, kudos to you. But I found a movie which I think some of you will be aware of. At least some of you on Twitter were aware of it by Whit Stillman. It's called Metropolitan. And there was one scene in particular early on in the movie that stood out to me, and I just wanted to bring it to you here. Let's roll the clip.
You haven't seen this? Detachable collar. Not many people wear them anymore. They look much better. So many things which were better in the past have been abandoned for supposed convenience.
I had no idea anyone wore those anymore.
That's a small thing, but symbolically important. Our parents' generation was never interested in keeping up standards. They wanted to be happy. But of course, the last way to be happy is to make it your objective in life.
I wonder if our generation's any better than our parents.
Oh, it's far worse. Our generation's probably the worst since the Protestant Reformation. It's barbaric. But a barbarism even worse than the old-fashioned, straightforward kind. Now barbarism is cloaked with all sorts of self-righteousness and moral superiority. Will you look at this?
You're obviously talking about a lot more than just detachable collars.
Yeah, I am.
They're the small things, but they're symbolically important. It's a barbarism much worse. It's a barbarism cloaked in self-righteousness and moral superiority. Isn't that just what we're seeing out there nowadays? Isn't that what we're just seeing time and time again, over and over again? And there was more barbarism cloaked in moral superiority in Foreign Affairs magazine yesterday. And I really wanted to talk to you about this because, again, in amongst everything, there will be fights that continue. And we'll talk to Molly McCann about that in just a second. But there is a not 0% chance that on January the 20th, Joe Biden is inaugurated the president. Let's just be clear. There is a not 0% chance. I get it. We get it. We're in for the fight. We're not going anywhere, apart from maybe the gulags. Let me talk to you about this, right? This is General Mattis. And here's the deal, okay? We're going to hear autopsies, why this race was so close, if Trump does manage to eke it out, why he lost, if he does lose on the back of all of this. And there'll be autopsies and everybody will, hey, how did this happen? And believe me, we'll get into the characters. We'll get into the characters that appointed people like General Jim Mattis, who's out in Foreign Affairs magazine right now, calling for an America Last foreign policy. Last time I checked, that's basically treason. The idea of putting your country's interest below globalist institutions, that's what he's calling for. Below the interest of other nation states, that's what he's calling for. Below the interests of nation building, that's what he's calling for in this new article in Foreign Affairs magazine. I want to quote from you on the quote for you from this. Quote, in practice, America first has meant America alone. That has damaged the country's ability to address problems before they reach U.S. territory and has thus compounded the danger emergent threats pose. Have you ever heard such nonsense, such gibberish, such claptrap, such overtly untrue statements? And I think it was naive. It was naive for President Trump to appoint this man in the first place. But I could throw a rock in this town and hit somebody who shouldn't have been appointed by the Trump administration. As I say, we'll deal with that when the time is right. But let's focus on this right now, because General Mattis is auditioning. He's auditioning for his job. And by the way, he's got 3 co-authors on this piece, 4 of them. It took 4 of them to write 800 words. The geniuses here in Washington, D.C. It took 4 of them. Hudson Institute, American Enterprise Institute, and General Jim Mattis. And they want to tell you, hey, I want to quote again, right? Quote, it is in the United States' interest to build the capacity of such governments, he's talking about foreign nations, of such governments to deal with the threats that concern Americans. That work isn't quick or linear, but it is an investment in both greater security and stronger relationships, and preferable to the United States indefinitely having to take care of threats on its own. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this last 4 years has actually seen an incredible level of peace. I'm not saying that Trump wasn't using drone strikes. He absolutely was. He used more than Obama. I get it. It wasn't everything. Nothing's everything. But we haven't gone to war. We haven't started a new war. We haven't deployed more troops overseas. We haven't seen any of the military-industrial complex get any of the things that it's wanted over the last 4 years. And that's been a good thing. And here's Jim Mattis saying, no, you know what? Actually, we should get back into the business of nation building. We should actually be deploying troops overseas. We should actually be going back on everything that the last 4 years has been in terms of foreign policy. He concludes, quote, in January, when President Joe Biden and his national security team begin to reevaluate U.S. foreign policy, we hope they will quickly revise the national security strategy to eliminate America first from its contents, restoring in its place the commitment to cooperative security that has served the United States so well for decades. How well? How well, Brother Jim? $5 trillion spent, $6 trillion really, in Afghanistan and Iraq for what? How well did that strategy serve us in Iran? How well did that strategy serve before President Trump came to office and said to North Korea, hey, you know what? We actually don't want to get into a hot war with you guys. How about that? How well has it served ordinary Americans up and down this country who saw that money plowed into Kabul instead of to Detroit, or instead of into the pockets of the job creators? How well? I was disgusted, genuinely to my throat, sick to my teeth, by this general getting up there and saying, you know what, let's eliminate America first. Eliminate America first. These guys didn't want to even eliminate ISIS. Keep them around. Keep more troops on the ground. It all works for them. Jobs for the boys, more money in their pockets. When we come back, we'll bring in Molly McCann to calm me down and talk to us about what's going on in Wisconsin, in Georgia, and we'll talk about the General Services Administration as well. This woman who was threatened, her pets were threatened because she wouldn't allow Joe Biden's team access to a couple of desks and a couple of phones in the GSA building. Another disgrace. We'll be back after this break. All right, sorry, but not really sorry for going on 2 rants this afternoon. I still think it's morning. I got the whole day ahead of me, Jim. I got the whole day ahead of me. I'm just starting. I'm just getting warmed up. I'm just having my first coffee of the day. It's 3 o'clock here in the afternoon in Washington, D.C., and I'm just getting started. I'm going to be joined by Molly McCann in just a moment. I want to turn to Natalie Winters here in studio with us. Natalie, you're working on another story as it pertains to General Jim Mattis, right? Somebody who swears an oath to the United States and then goes and says, we need to eliminate America first.
Yes, so he serves as a senior counselor at the Cohen Group, which is a consulting firm that we've highlighted at the National Pulse a few months back. Because of their extensive ties to the Chinese Communist Party, it seems that they've adopted the America Last mantra in terms of their hiring practices. They employ several former Chinese Communist Party officials, high-level ones, at that to run their China desk. What's more, if you remember, we reported on the Harvard Ash Center probably about 6 months back, talking about how they hosted high-level Chinese Communist Party diplomats, specifically those coming from Xinjiang, a firm that the Trump administration actually sanctioned for human rights abuses. They were identified as a key actor in repressing Uyghurs in that area. Nonetheless, the Cohen Group actually hosted this firm, advised them, gave them lectures and information on how to better rule, how to better administer their country. And while all that was happening, you saw General Jim Mattis serving as a senior counselor, ostensibly making a lot of money. This consulting group has a lot of clients that they list on their website. So when he's telling us about what America Last policy should look like, he would know, given that he's effectively boosting the Chinese Communist Party and quite literally advising them how to be better at administrating their country.
It's incredible. I mean, if there's any reason, and there are millions of them, but if there was one that meant every American needs to put their shoulders to the wheel to stop Joe Biden taking the Oval Office on January the 20th at 12:01 in the afternoon, this signifies it. This kind of epitomizes the whole thing. You know, we were talking before we got on air about who was it that basically admitted that the Trump administration was tougher on China than the Biden administration would be.
Avril Haines, who is Joe Biden's pick for Director of National Intelligence, was speaking at a Columbia Business School event earlier this year, and she was talking about a potential Cold War which could happen between the United States and China. And you can hear there's a direct quote, maybe we'll have it up on the site later, where she says that she knows that the Trump administration would be, quote, harder on China than a potential Biden administration would be.
Let's go to Molly. Let's go to Molly McCann here. I know we've got a few technical issues here, but we'll try and deal with it. Molly, thank you for joining us here, and thanks for your patience as we dealt through these problems here. Molly, let's pivot real quick. I'm sorry about ranting for the first 2 segments and maybe even a bit more than that. But there are so many iniquities out there right now. There are so many problems that I foresee coming on the horizon, and we need to plant our flags here. Because if we don't, we'll be backpedaling the whole time and trying to figure out, wow, how did we miss that? Why didn't we pay attention at the time? It's the perennial problem in Republican politics. Nobody actually wants to put a foot out of line. Nobody wants to get ahead of the issue because everybody's too frightened. I'm not. Ship me back to England if you want. Whatever. I don't care. Molly, let's talk about some of the things that we've seen. Specifically, let's start with the GSA. This lady, Emily Murphy, has withheld from, I mean, what the GSA stuff anyway is just, hey, you can have a couple of desks in a government building, you get a .gov website, and you get a couple of phones, right? You can prance around the place like you own it, but in reality, it doesn't really mean much. There might be some optics attached to it, but the fact of the matter is, she says in her letter, she was threatened, her family were threatened, her pets were threatened. I don't know what pets she has. Wouldn't occur to me to threaten anybody's pets, for the fact that they weren't given government phones. What's happening here?
Well, this is certainly a fight in optics. We saw, that in 2000, I think, they didn't even permit to move over until December 15th. So
I don't think we can hear you, Molly. I don't think we can hear you very well. We'll try and reconnect with you, but something has gone awry in that whole process. We'll try and bring Molly back very shortly, and she has a lot to say, and it's all quality. So we'll try and stick around and bring her back. Let's talk about this for a second here as well, Natalie, because you've been following this also. We put the story up last night. Just the amounts of traffic to the story were epic, and you can see why. Americans, much like Brits. Brits, we like a fair playing field. We just do not like when people are mistreated for the heck of it, abused, all of that. It's why there's so much outpouring of support for people like Tommy Robinson, because, like him or loathe him, he's unfairly treated by the state. And here you have Emily Murphy unfairly treated by pro-Biden people who are threatening her life because she wouldn't give up a little bit of government building space so the transition team can go in there and start making phone calls as if they're important, right? What is your take on this?
Well, I think that there's an interesting dovetail with what we were talking about before. You tried to bring Molly in, and what happened to Emily Murphy. And that is, you've already seen, right, the far left has said, we don't want anyone who worked in the Trump administration to have a job again. That's why they're treating Emily Murphy the way that they are, right? Frankly, they don't think that we're real people. They don't think that we're worthy of anything. They think that we're okay. We can be threatened. They can threaten our pets. It doesn't matter. We are beneath them, right?
Joke's on them. I don't have any pets. I have you.
But what's so interesting is you see people from the Biden administration, or rather the Obama administration, who are going on to start careers consulting on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. You see people who are cozying up to the potential Biden administration that have been consultants for the Chinese Communist Party. So frankly, where's the outrage coming from that side of the aisle when you see so many individuals who've departed the Obama administration? A very high-level individual, I'm forgetting his name, he went on to lobby for Huawei from the Obama administration. I saw no pushback there, yet they're perfectly content going after Emily Murphy for doing her job, as she says in the letter. While I'll give you some access to the transition stuff, I still believe that the Constitution and the remedies listed in that document are how we determine who's the president. Just because CNN says Joe Biden is the president-elect, that doesn't mean anything. But it really is a double standard. And frankly, I think it's really concerning.
Right.
Really concerning when you see the individuals who have ties to the Chinese Communist Party, who've really traded off their careers in government to make millions advising the Chinese Communist Party. And the Cohen Group is not just one.
Well, we'll get back to it after the break. We're going to go to a quick break. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen out there. It's working. They're scaring people. People are disappointed. Well, every day, in every way, we try and improve the nationalpulse.com and the show for you. I think most of you will have seen, if you have been following along with the website, that we have done a few changes to the style and the presentation on there. We have changed the homepage a little bit on there, basically trying to serve you more content, better content, more investigative news stuff, and we're going to be continuing to build. And why is it important? Why aesthetics? Why is anything like that ever important? Because it commands gravitas. You see something like this, it looks nice, it feels nice. It feels real, tangible. The left feel less comfortable attacking it as not credible. If things are very well put together, I want to thank Wahagan, our web developer who's been helping us with all of this. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can see it on your screen there. And I want to thank you as well, the audience, because you help do this. Every time we do something like this, it costs us time, it costs us money, it costs us resources. I basically sit at home every evening going through the whole site, figuring out what works, what doesn't, how do we get more eyeballs on the stories that we're breaking every day. Because guess what? You know, whether it's the Fox News website, whether it's... I'm going to stay away from attacking. I'm punching right here. But let me just be very clear. We're one of the only places out there that is going to continue to pump out stories from Hunter Biden's hard drive from hell. We're one of the only, if not the only, website out there that is going to go through all the FARA filings, right? The Foreign Agents Registration Act, and find out who are these people that Joe Biden's trying to put in government, right? Who have they worked for? We've got more stories like that coming out as well. I'm going to throw it over to Natalie Winters in just a second, but I want to thank all of you, because we are now at nearly 1,200 people that have gone to thenationalpulse.com/support, and you've signed up. Whether it's for $5 a month, you sign up, you just get access to our Discord chat channel, which, by the way, is great fun and really informative. And I spend a lot of time, probably more time than I should, in there every day chatting to our members who are also volunteering to help out, spread links, share information, volunteer in their communities, talk to their legislators. This is a community we're building. And there are $10 and $50 and $100, different types of memberships you can get. thenationalpulse.com/support. But while I'm talking to you about the Discord as well, I want to thank everybody in there because, look, after this is all said and done, whether Trump wins or doesn't win on January the 20th, you got to understand. If we talk about Jim Mattis and talk about all these dodgy appointments that were made, why were they made? Because somebody got in the president's ear and said, oh, no, yes, sir, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be great. He's a great patriot. It'll be great. It'll be fine. It was never fine. I mean, there are 1,000 of these holdovers, ne'er-do-wells, that have occupied government positions and tried to stop and stymie the president's agenda, your agenda, for the last 4 years. And it's going to come down to this. Look, are we going to allow these big think tanks, the American Enterprise Institutes and the John Boltons, even the Heritages, are we going to allow them to run the next 4 years, whether it's in power or in opposition, or are you going to start up your own America First community of people? And I really do mean people who can either work in government or somehow contribute to the wider movement. I can't believe the number of people that have reached out to me in this Discord chat alone saying, hey, by the way, I've worked in ad sales for the last 30 years. I can help you with that. Hey, by the way, I'm a web developer. Hey, by the way, I'm a copy editor. You know, the talents, the 1,000 talents, the talents, there's a little CCP reference, of America proper. We need them all. We need all of you guys. And I'm just so grateful that, you know, we've started to put together a massive team that can do that in this Discord chat channel. I wonder to the producers, do we have Molly back? Can we reach Molly? We can try. All right, we can try. We're going to try to bring Molly back in here, Molly McCann of Counsel with Sidney Powell. Molly, how about now?
I hope this works for him.
Hey, it's better. I think we can hear you. Okay, let's go.
Right.
Let's go with all the time that you want. Okay, we've got 25 minutes left in the show. You can have all the time you want. Sorry, Natalie. Let's start with the GSA.
Yes. I mean, the GSA last night was really disappointing because I think it took a lot of wind out of the sails of Patriots. The fact of the matter is it looked like a concession to most people. And I think Trump realized that because he started, even last night before I went to bed, I saw him send out a tweet saying, this doesn't mean anything, people, like, why is everyone getting upset? And then today he was just on a tweet storm reminding us of that. In some sense, it was almost positive because I don't think we've heard enough from Donald Trump, sort of his fighting spirit. So it's brought that out. But there's no doubt it shouldn't have been done, and it's disappointing. And I think it stems from the fact that Republicans do not back up their people enough. Democrats would have stood behind their GSA director and would not have permitted this to happen. So it's disappointing.
Molly, do you know I get attacked by more Republicans than I do from the left?
I can believe that.
Yeah. I still think there's plenty of fight left in the president. You know, for me, it's about the people around him now, whispering in his ear every morning. You see the stories out there in the establishment media about who's talking to who's pressuring him, what they want him to do. Some of it's got an inkling of truth to it. Some of it's obviously patently false. But there are no doubt people around the president right now who are saying, "Come on, man! Like, you know, it's time to just concede, give up the ghost. You can have a go of it in 4 years' time if you want. Make some money in the meantime. You know, enjoy your life. Go sit on a beach somewhere." You can tell that there are people out there like that. But you can tell when the president, for instance, goes out there this afternoon and he's talking about the Dow Jones reaching 30,000. He doesn't want to give up. He really, really understands that what has happened to this country in the last 12 months has been because of the Chinese Communist Party and everything that we've been warning him about the Chinese Communist Party. And in fact, his own instincts about China over the last 30 years have been proved out to be correct. But then at the same time, he keeps hearing from other people, sniping from the sidelines, people who are giving up. I'm told that the RNC types are all checking out of this right now. They don't want a part of the fight. So, you know, all right, look, we've got 45 seconds before we have to break here. So let me just ask you this question real quick. Do you agree with me that more ordinary people need to up sticks, move to Washington, D.C., get stuck into the fight, you know, displace all of these establishment goons on the right?
Absolutely. I mean, but we also, honestly, Raheem, we need participation on the state level, the local level. If we were more active on the local level, we wouldn't be in this spot.
I think that's true. I think that's right. Molly McCann. All right, we're going to come back to you in just a second because I know you've got some news for us about what's going on in Michigan, what's going on in Wisconsin, what's going on in Georgia as well. TheNationalPulse.com is the website, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be publishing some new news this afternoon as well. Stick around, stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, a little live commentary here from our private Discord chat channel where our National Pulse members like to critique our outfits in real time. So we have one comment that says, "Natalie, swoon." And then the follow-up was, "Lilac is a good color on her." Now, I thought that was more lavender. Is that lilac or lavender?
I think it's lilac, if that's what the Discord says.
All
and
right.
you were making fun of the color of the shirt before we started the show.
How dare you suggest that I would do such a thing? All I was saying is that
You
you're
said I
blending
reminded
into
you
the
of your dead
background
grandma.
there, so that you're camouflaged in with the walls, which I don't know, maybe is where you want to be. And I want to say thank you because people in the live chat are talking about how great the community is and how it's building up. So I want to thank them for that and thank them for critiquing my outfit. Somebody said I look especially dapper today, so you know, I'll take it. Let's go back to Molly. Oh, by the way, Molly, you got a comment in here as well. If you want to hear it, Molly looks smart. I need to take some tips. All right, so Molly's getting some love in the live chat as well. Okay, Molly, let's. What do we want to start? We want to start in Michigan.
Yes, I'd like to start in Michigan.
Please do. Take us away.
So yesterday we got some bad news. We heard the Michigan Supreme Court denied the injunction that the case Constantino was requesting. Now, it's important to remember, Constantino is not a Trump case. It's been brought by a private plaintiff, the Great Lakes Justice Center.
Yep.
But it's an excellent case requesting an audit, a results audit, pursuant to a relatively new Michigan constitutional amendment that was passed 2 years ago. So unfortunately, injunction was denied yesterday, but if you actually read through the opinion from the concurring judge and then certainly from the dissenting judge, who's very supportive, you'll see that they're still in a pretty good position. I think they're going to still get their results audit. But one of the things I wanted to really draw attention to in the concurring opinion was how the judge discussed how this was an issue of democracy. And the people had passed this amendment that permits anyone to request an audit. And he just kept underscoring that thread. And it just, for me, it underscores how important it is for judges to be perceived, for the public to perceive that they are not going against the will of the people. So it makes it all the more difficult for us to begin to support so that we really do integrity in these elections.
Molly, I sense our line is degrading with you again, but I just want to ask you: is this we were talking about in Michigan? Is this where they were basically saying, "Hey, look, the evidence is compelling"?
Yes, that.
Because that's a pretty big deal. We've been told by the establishment media, we're told in Politico, right, which is the email that every single person in Washington, D.C., all these establishment stalwarts, they read every morning. Everything that comes into their inbox is, hey, don't worry, there's nothing to worry about here. There's no evidence. It's just it's all Rudy, Sidney, Linwood BS. Cast it aside. But actually what the judges are saying is that the issues are more about technicalities. The evidence itself is compelling.
Yes, and I'm very sorry it's so bad because it was a great ruling and something, but it's very positive.
Yeah.
People who are watching feel optimistic.
Molly, we gotta lose you because the audio is starting to go in and out again. But we really thank you for your time. MollyMcCann.com. That's MollyMcCann.com is the website. She does a daily update, posts all the links. You can follow her on Twitter there on that site as well. Everything to do with stopping the steal is on MollyMcCann.com. So make sure you're all following. We'll fix it. We'll have Molly back on tomorrow once we fix the connection there. But we're really grateful always for having her on. Let's pivot back. Let's go back to some of the news we're breaking at the National Pulse. Natalie, yesterday evening we published about the Albright. What are they called? The Albright.
Albright
Stonebridge Group. Okay, so we've talked about them before, but kind of in passing, kind of as a tertiary entity.
Just kind of flagging it, putting a marker on the group
laying a marker
the
down.
kind of influence that they could have.
So you laid a marker down months ago, and it now appears that was the right thing to do.
Certainly.
Why?
So, in the Biden transition team and certain agency review teams, specifically the Department of State and then the International Development team, you see 4 individuals coming from the Albright Stonebridge Group who have significant influence over these transition teams. Interestingly enough, in both the teams, the quote team leads, so really heading these efforts, both come from Albright Stonebridge Group. But the connection between a potential Biden administration and this group intensified when Joe Biden announced that Linda Thomas Greenfield would be his pick for the ambassador to the United Nations.
She was up on stage with him today.
Yes, so why this is pretty egregious is because the Albright Stonebridge Group basically undergirds their entire consulting firm by profiting from the Chinese Communist Party. They list on their website that their, quote, largest single country practice is rooted in
China.
Exactly. I know I always say exactly, but it's warranted here because they employ so many former very, very high-level officials who've worked with the Chinese Communist Party, really carrying out the policies that the Trump administration has moved against, has sanctioned individuals involved with human rights abuses. But even just from a more kind of systemic level at that firm, you see the kind of deals that they're advising on and who they're consulting with. They've consulted with companies that have wanted to, say, outsource solar production facilities to China. They've even bragged about on their website. And again, I would just point this out. All the information that I'm telling you right now, this is open source data, right? It's not like...
Wait, okay, fine. So if this is open source, then why is it a big revelation? You know, why CNN, why is this not in Politico's newsletter every morning? If this is open, these journalists in DC don't even have to do, like, real investigative work to get here. But why aren't they doing it?
Well, frankly, they're not doing it. It goes back to what we always talk about, because a lot of times they are in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, whether it's, you know, Chinese state media outlets placing lucrative advertisements in a lot of these outlets.
Very lucrative.
Or frankly, you see here, for example, individuals at this firm, which again, you have a host of alums from the Obama administration and high-level ones at that, they talk about, again, they're bragging on their website, which again, I think shows you how brave they are and how they know how lazy our media.
Brazen,
yeah.
Not brave.
Yeah.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll come back. More information, Albright Stonebridge Group. There's more entities and organizations that Joe Biden's pulling in, big swamp type things that he's pulling in. We're going to lay it all out on thenationalpulse.com. We'll see you after this word from us. I don't know. I'm not a big finance guy. I don't know much about, the particulars, stock markets above 30,000 and all that kind of stuff. But what I do see is that the market's going up, but also Bitcoin's going up, right? And Bitcoin tends to be a hedge against uncertainty in a way. And so this clearly not what the media would like you to think is there's this consensus, right? It's President Biden. It's President-elect Biden. I'm not sure most people, investors, I just don't know that that's what the consensus is right now. And we'll keep bringing you the news day in and day out, focusing on the signal and not the noise as far as what a potential Biden administration could look like. Could look like, not will. And what is actually going on in Wisconsin? What is going on in Georgia? What is going on in Michigan? We've got some specials that we'll be bringing you over the Thanksgiving period for sure. We'll be live again here tomorrow. I'll be live with you on Friday as well. There's something a little different on Friday, but we're going to do it. We're going to make it work because we want to communicate with you in real time about what's going on out there. Stay tuned after this show, by the way. David Brody's Water Cooler is up next. I want to turn back to Natalie Winters here in studio in downtown Washington, D.C. Natalie, the Albright Stonebridge Group, you were walking us through this. Okay, so 4 individuals, the team leads, Linda Thomas, whatever her name is, CCP officials working with Albright Stonebridge. They are a group that helps outsource to China, includes a lot of Obama alums as well. I can't read my own writing here. And, okay, so who are these 4 and who are the CCP officials?
Sure. So in the State Department transition team, which you have a total of 30 individuals spearheading that effort, 3 of which come from the Albright Stonebridge Group, which is pretty sizable. I don't see many other institutions represented so heavily, at least in the State Department transition team. And you have Linda Thomas Greenfield, Simona Guha, and Roberta Jacobson.
Yeah.
And then in the International Development Team, which again, they're overseeing the United States Agency for International Development, the United States International Development Finance Corporation. So basically they're deciding where my tax dollars should go, what foreign countries should be recipients of them.
Yep.
You have Elizabeth Littlefield, who is a team lead, so she's spearheading that effort. But what I was saying before we went to break, sure, it's egregious enough that these individuals are affiliated with a consulting firm that's working on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. But what's really concerning is when you look at what this firm has done when they're out of government, when they're out of power, right? So they quote on their website, we then maintained referencing a business deal in China, we then maintained close contact with officials and agency involved in the government approval process to monitor progress and immediately address challenges as they arose. Our client also leveraged U.S. government advocacy in support of the investment, and the strategy culminated in a visit by a U.S. cabinet secretary. So the point is that even when they're out of power, they're still finding a way to leverage our government agencies. So what are they going to do when they're chairing the State Department, when they're getting to choose?
And here's the thing as well, is that they realize that if they do get into power, then it will probably be a very short amount of power. So they're going to be leveraging even harder all their positions, all of their time. All the Hunter Biden stuff that we've seen, it will be tiny. It'll be minuscule compared to what these people are going to do, because they'll realize, hey, America's going to see the swamp is back. They're going to vote us out in 4 years. Suck up as many deals as possible, right?
Or even if you look within the Biden administration, who's to say that they won't use I personally think some of the reporting that we've even done on the Hunter Biden hard drive will be seeing used against Joe Biden to try to get Kamala Harris and the more further left and her counterparts in and seize control of that administration. But no, it goes back to what you're saying. When you have individuals who are so closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party, effectively serving as the HR department of the State Department of International Review Teams, frankly, even leading the UN, which if there's anybody that needs someone who can tackle China, again, UN, the World Health Organization, is overseen by the United Nations. That's where we would need a very heavy hitter against the Chinese Communist Party. Instead, we have someone who's made a ton of money working for a firm that effectively works on behalf of China. It's really concerning and frightening.
Here's how you know. Here's how you know that it's not real. The Biden victory was just not real. So he goes up there today and he goes, okay, Paris, back into Paris on day one. Iran deal, back in the Iran deal, day one. World Health Organization, day one. These are not the priorities of ordinary Americans. This is not what people would have voted for at this last election. It doesn't have any bearing in reality. Nobody told any pollsters this stuff. Yeah, well, who told the pollster? You know what I really want? I really want back in that Paris climate change deal. That's what I really wanted. I really want to send pallets of cash back to Tehran. That was a real high point for the United States. I really want to rejoin the World Health Organization and start funding it properly because they did a great job with this pandemic and they really did a great job holding the Chinese Communist Party to account. Nobody said that. You're living in cloud cuckoo land if you think that ordinary people voted for that. More votes than Obama. Nonsense. Gibberish. And the worst thing about it is, it's so in your face, the steal is so in your face, the fraud is so in your face, we've proved it beyond what I think is doubtable. We've proved it statistically that there's just no way these numbers of votes could have come in. 98% reporting in the period of 1 hour for Joe Biden. Joe Jorgensen manages to get like an extraordinary amount of votes in Montgomery County, a real libertarian stronghold, right? Rubbish, nonsense, BS, trash. But they're in your face about it. They're laughing in your face about it. MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all just making the calls, laughing in your face about it. And you're not doing anything about it. Okay, yeah, right. You're on the internet. You're sharing some stories, whatever. But our side isn't occupying state capitals, using the fullest extent of the powers of the American public that most people around the world have looked at and thought for decades, wow, those people are ballsy. They're gutsy. They get it. They'll defend their rights. That's how their country was founded, and they will never let go of that. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Show it to us. Legally. Before the censors take me off air. All right, Natalie, we've got to bounce. We'll have more later on the site, more stories coming up. West Exec as well, another one of these swamp groups that Biden's using to recruit to his team. Stick around, David Brody's up next, special again tonight, 7 p.m. Dr. Gina Loudon. See you again tomorrow at 3.